is Sarah Roland, and I have Bayou Sarah Farms in St. Francisville, Louisiana, where it's a fully regenerative farm, and we raise water buffalo and pigs and chickens and have a few bees and an organic blueberry orchard, and all just improving the soil while we using animals as our paintbrush, if you will. I've never been into industrial or commercial farming. Like getting on a tractor and farming 600 acres of soybeans never been appealing. So for me, it's being able to work with animals and work with the land and kind of seeing it all happen together, and then realizing like how we see this place is this is a whole living system. It's not just cows are right here, we scrape the manure and put it over here. Everyone's moving, everything is moving, and so we see value in every square foot we have here instead of just having some sacrificial areas that are waste. So we have a perimeter fence. It's a pretty sturdy 4x4 twisted wire, 4.5 feet tall, with 4 inches above that barbed wire at the top and at the bottom, and so that's the that's what helps me sleep at night. I had the buffalo before that get out on the highway on a couple occasions. It was really not ideal, but we figured it out. And so then within that we have different internal systems. So we have one main fence. It's kind of the whole pasture here. Hi, Rosie. That is a 3-strand hard wire fence, and that's electric, and then that's where we get the power or the electricity to all these internal fences. And so then we use this single strand line to kind of create pastures within the main pasture. And so I make all of my pastures in the spring, and I do kind of set the whole place up like a big pizza, and in the center is the lake, and so they always have access to the pond. And then I just move them over once or twice a day, but they're never in a place for more than 48 hours. And then so those pastures are anywhere from like half of an acre to 1.2 acres maybe, and then depending on the growing season that kind of changes a little bit too. But every other year we switch. Like if we're going north south, then we'll go east west the next year, so that the disturbance is at a cross and we're not just continuing the same impact and the same pattern. These 2 side flaps come down so I could take it down the road if I need to, not fast, but through a fence or something, and take it down during hurricanes or high winds. So these have a pin in here. So we pull this pin out, and then this just kind of comes straight through. These were attached, but for no particular reason. And this was just an old trailer. We built it mainly for shade, because the limiting factor in how I build my little pastures, if I don't have any shade in there, it's not really ideal. I got this because we graze other people's land across the street, and so I don't have any permanent infrastructure for it, and so just be able to get them in and out of the trailer over there. So this, you have all these different gates and systems within it. So it's your classic corral. This gate will swing open, so you could sort one animal at a time in here. But the whole thing, one person can set the whole thing up. It's all on wheels. Wow. And so the whole thing kind of accordion folds in. So like this would fold in there, and then that would fold in, and they all sandwich up together in the middle. You ratchet them down, and then this is on a solar lift, and so then the whole thing lifts up, and it's a trailer you can take down the highway. Like I would just have these single strings trying to talk animals into getting into a trailer in the middle of a pasture, and then they bust through a string, and now I've just got 200 acres and nothing between us, and so it doesn't work out. Whereas with this, we can open a gate, put everyone in here, and then we're able to move them around within it. And so you can see on the inside here, this opens up, and then they go down this lane, and you can load them into a trailer from here. And so then I bought it to be able to load animals in and out of a trailer, and then didn't realize how helpful it would be to also double as my corral for my milking parlor. And this gate right here swings out like this, and so then she can walk in there to get milked. The calf walks behind her, starts nursing, and that gets the milk going, and then I kick the calf out, shut this door, and then I hand milk. And this is where, like when we had the chicken tractor, it was parked here for 4 days instead of 2, so it got a little too much impact, a little high nitrogen fertilizer, and that was probably a year and a half ago. that it was parked here. And that's another thing that I find interesting in the, fertilizers that I have understanding of. When you use chemical fertilizer, the half-life is like 30 days or something around there. And I'm seeing impact where things that I did 2 or 3 years ago are showing up as a fertilized piece of land.
Yeah.
And so the longevity of that, the way that it's working on its own, and it's not just that, even if you had all the money and resources in the world to make something happen, I like to see it more on how it wants to happen on its own and how we can do it slowly. I would rather have that happen than just put a bunch of chemical fertilizers here that are starving my microbes and depleting my soil over time. And it seems nice this year, but it's over time killing everything. This was like the first project that I did on the farm, and so the idea was to be able to have it for the bees, and just because we have that area right there that's separated and we can graze it really intensely if we want to. And so the goal is mainly just for pollinators, and so we planted all the wildflowers. They were great. We planted them again the next year, and so we thought we were kind of established, but then by the 3rd year, very few of the things we planted came up, and we have a bunch of goldenrod and a bunch of other things, which at first I thought I failed. Like, that was a lot of money and that was a lot of time, like trying to establish something like, well, I'm learning as I go. But I had my grandmother, who was 94 at the time, out with me and took her through, and I was like telling her about what I was seeing because she didn't have very good eyesight at the time. And she was like, but listen, and it was just so loud with pollinators. And she's like, isn't that why you planted this? And I was like, you are right, grandmother. That is exactly right. And so instead of freaking out about it not being the things that I planted, seeing what works there is great, I moved out here in the end of 2019, so first started in beginning of 2020. I moved the water buffalo here in the beginning of April and got chickens probably a couple months after that, and have had a couple different systems, but everything that we do is mobile. So the milking parlor moves with the buffalo, the chickens move, the shade structure and hay feeding shed moves, and so we're able to kind of determine what kind of impact we have in different areas depending on where we park something, so like if we have a whole bunch of something that we don't like a sedge or or briars or something like that, I might park my milking parlor there for a little while and just get a lot of disturbance and kind of change up the patterns of things and the availability of things in the seed bank there. So whenever you have, an area, if you imagine an area that you're driving a tractor by over and over and over again, you're going to get a lot of extreme compaction. And so then the seeds in the ground or whatever's there isn't able to come out, or the microbes are squished, everything. I don't really know fully the science of it, but it kind of keeps things from growing there. And over time, you just end up having just dirt and nothing at all. And so that's kind of like the extreme of impact and negative impact. But then you think about moving animals around, you do want some impact. And so with the animals, especially with the split hoof, as they step into the ground, they're kind of helping to aerate the soil a little bit and kind of break open and allow more water to come in if it's raining. And so it just kind of changes what's happening. And to me, from what I understand, that's a very Henry stuffing. That's a helpful thing, for the life in the soil. There's a lot more going on in the ground than I think there's even research to prove it. But I think there's a lot of research kind of going on these days in all that. But so you have the movement of the animals as well as them, consuming the forage and then fermenting in them and sending out the back end of really nutritious manure that is fertilizer for the land. And so then the chickens are the same with the fertilizer there, and then they have a different kind of impact. So being able to kind of rotate chickens around, move the buffalo around, we're just bringing life back to the soil here. But the reason why somebody should care is to foster life. You're fostering wildlife. We welcome birds, insects, anybody who wants to come here, and different species that are coming up in the seed bank that we haven't seen in years. And so increasing the biodiversity anytime, all the time, whether it's the biodiversity of what's in our gut that makes us healthy, or whether it's the biodiversity of the pretty wildlife that we enjoy seeing, or the flowers in a field, different species of different things everywhere is what makes up life. If you wait until you're an expert, you'll never get started. I'd never been on the same side of the fence as a water buffalo until I owned one. And that was scary, But if I would have waited till I figured out everything about them and learned about all their health and all these other things, I would have probably been too scared to ever get started. And then once I had them, you know, you just figure it out. See what works, see what doesn't work. It's all about taking risks.